Welcome to the Showgirl Connection. I'm your host, Luann. I have three fabulous show people in the studio with me today, and I'm just going to let them introduce themselves.
I'm Cady Hurd. Hi, I'm Elyse. Corbin.
I'm Cari Byers.
Very good. So the Showgirl Connection aligns themselves with the Showgirl Legacy Foundation, and our vision is to preserve the historic significance of the iconic showgirl as a performing artist. So I always start out first with what big stage show spectaculars you were in. And so I know you were in
Jubilee. I also got to do Jubilee. I did a few shows after that, not quite a big spectacular, but I'm still proud to have done the Burlesque show. I like to call it Burlesque. That's my nickname.
Burlesque.
We'll get to that later, I'm sure.
Yeah, and then Cari, you were in the
I was at Folies Bergère.
Folies Bergère. So, the Folies Bergère opened up in 1958. It closed in 2008.
2009.
2009. And you were there for 11 years.
Mm-hmm. It opened on Christmas Day in 1959 and then closed in 2009.
Wow. And then I know Jubilee opened up in 1980 because I was in the original cast of Jubilee before the fire. So that was in 1979 and I never went back. But both of you were in Jubilee. Mm-hmm. And that ran until 2016. So what years were you in Jubilee?
2008 to 2010.
Okay. And
I started in 2009 and I closed the show.
Wow. Okay. So you were there for
7
or 8 years?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm my hats go off to all of you because I was in the shows from 79 to 91. So I never had to make that transition where you guys have made a huge transition. The strip has made a huge transition that there are no more big stage show spectaculars anymore. And so I would love for each of you to kind of tell us a little bit about, your training and then the big stage show spectaculars you were in, and then how you made that transition into the new Vegas today and what the new Showgirl looks like. Why don't we start with you, Cari?
You started in the hot seat first?
Yeah.
So training?
Yeah.
I started out life wanting to be a ballerina.
Okay.
And that was my focus pretty much until middle of high school. And then one of my dance teachers said, "You're too tall to be a ballerina." So I transitioned and started taking and concentrating more on jazz and tap and modern and stuff like that. And I went to ASU and got a degree in dance.
ASU,
Arizona State University.
Okay.
And that was a really great program. I was very fortunate the year I got into the program. There were only 10 of us admitted into the program.
Nice.
So it was a great program, and I graduated from there. After that, I did a little bit of work in a modern company there in Phoenix. Then I went to Japan and danced in a small cabaret show there. Then I bounced around in Arizona and coming out here to audition for shows, and I got Follies and moved here in 98, I think. End of 97, early 98.
So you stayed for 11 years until the close of the show.
I closed the show, yeah.
So what was that like to close the show?
Oh, it was heartbreaking. I mean, it was just heartbreaking. I'm going to start crying just thinking about it.
Don't get us all crying.
Yeah. Because it was the best years of my life. I was living out my dream in a beautiful show, and we were a very close-knit cast, and we'd always been. Because you spend 6 nights a week, 2 shows a night with these people.
Yeah.
So it was magical because there were so many past performers that were in the audience.
Nice. So were you a showgirl or were you a dancer?
I was a showgirl.
Because I'm thinking those dancers, I mean, they were gymnasts. They were.
Yeah, we were the only
line
we were the only show at the time that had an acro line. We had a boys acro line and a girls acro line, and we had short dancers, tall dancers, a boys regular dancer line, and then the showgirls.
And I think you were the last to have the showgirls because I was in Don Arden's big stage show spectaculars, and I was in Hallelujah Hollywood, and that was the last show that he had just a line of showgirls.
Yeah.
Then by the time Jubilee came, it became the Dancing News. It did both dancing and showgirl work.
Yeah.
So
towards the end, they were having us dance more. It just depended too, who was in the cast. But most of us were really well-trained dancers.
So you worked with Lucy Pichon.
I did. I worked with Lucy.
Yeah. Yeah. So then after the show closed, I mean, were you already thinking about what you needed to do next or how you were going to transition?
Yeah, I had gone to UNLV and gotten a graduate degree and was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I just was hoping I'd have a couple more years to figure it
So
out.
it was a surprise that they closed?
Yeah, it was a
college?
surprise. It was a surprise. They gave us 3 months notice.
Okay.
So, but it was a surprise.
Because I remember a new company came in and bought the Trops. Everybody was kind of wondering what was going to
what
happen.
was happening.
Yeah.
And we had been, the property I think had changed hands several times in the last few years. It just kept changing hands because for a while it was Ramada Express owned it and a property out in Laughlin, and then I don't know, it just was always changing. So they had ideas. They wanted to four-wall the theater and make their money that way. So
Yeah. So you have your production company,
well, I have Premier Showgirl.
Premier Showgirls.
I wouldn't say it's a production company. It's a talent agency.
Okay. And so how long have you had that?
11 years. I took it over 11 years ago.
So was that right after?
No, that was
would've been-
2014. I bounced around trying to figure out my life for a few years. I spent a good couple years just gigging after Follies closed. I gigged with Kady a lot. And then I just ended up taking over the company that I worked a lot for.
So that's interesting because Kady, you were in Jubilee, and now you're working for Premier Showgirls, but you guys started out working
Gigs
together.
Yes, yeah.
I love those Showgirl
I was the
connections.
OG. I was the bitter OG.
That's why I liked her. I think we connected right away.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
those wonderful connections that you make, and like you said, you become family.
Yes, definitely.
But you didn't meet each other till you both left
Right.
Jubilee
Yeah.
and Follies Bergère.
Right.
Because I didn't really
ventured
gig
out.
I didn't really gig too much. I did convention work during the day, but I didn't do like showgirl gigs because I was working at night in Follies. And
Okay.
I started gigging full time after Follies closed.
And so how was that transition? Because I think about, I was on stage for almost 12 years, but we never left the magic of the showroom.
Right.
And back then we didn't even go, like at the end Jubilee, you were going out and having your pictures taken. We didn't, I was in the Lido, I was in Hello Hollywood Hello, but we never left the stage and we didn't even do the photo op. So how was that to lose that safety net,
Yeah.
kind of, right?
It's an adjustment.
Yeah.
You learn quickly how to express to people your boundaries because you don't have, when we took pictures outside the theater at Jubilee, the photographer was always very good at telling people she can touch you, you can't touch her. Like you were very closely watched and taken care of. And at gigs, it's not quite like that because you're roaming around sometimes big parties and things. So you
And I'm
learn.
sure everybody wants their picture taken
Yes.
with a showgirl.
Yes. Yeah. So, but it's a different animal, but it is really, really fun in a different way because instead of people just watching you on a stage, they get to express to you how cool they think this whole showgirl thing is and how beautiful the costume and whatever. And so that's neat to have that experience with people.
Yeah. So did you and Elyse work in the show together in Jubilee?
We did have a crossover. You finished?
I finished right as you were coming in, I think.
I think maybe there was one contract.
Really?
Crossover. 2009 I started.
I was out by 2008.
Oh.
But I kind of feel like I remember seeing you in the hallways, maybe
Okay.
rehearsing
It
and
must
stuff
have just
like.
been rehearsals
Yeah,
then.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think we really met on gigs.
Yes,
Okay.
we
Yeah.
do a lot of gigs together
Yeah.
So Elyse, where are you from? I detect a bit of an
now.
accent.
Sydney, Australia.
Okay.
Yeah. So I grew up there. I did all of my training in Sydney, and I left pretty quickly because I was told there's not a lot of work for dancers of my height anyway in Australia. So I was like, well, I guess if I don't want to be a dance teacher and I want to be on stage, I have to go exploring. So the first place I went was actually Taiwan.
Wow.
And I did a magic show contract, just one contract over the summer. And after that was cruise ships. And then I found my way to Vegas. And I love it. I've been here ever since.
And so was that the first show you auditioned for here was Jubilee?
Jubilee.
And with
Yeah.
Fluff?
With Fluff, yes. And she pulled me aside at the audition, she said, "I see you're from out of the country. Do you have your papers?" And I was like, "They're in process." They told me I should get my work permit any day, and I literally got my work visa came in the day of orientation.
Wow.
Wow.
On pins and needles, like, but then it worked out perfectly.
And so you were a bluebell.
I was a short nude to start with. I'm
Okay.
5'10", considered a short nude.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
pretty short.
after a few contracts, they let me start swinging the other lines. And by the end of my time, I was a full show swing, so I knew all of the bluebell tracks, all of the short nude tracks, all of the tall nude tracks, and almost all of the principal tracks as well.
Wow.
I was living and breathing Jubilee.
Yeah. I was a swing for Hallelujah Hollywood in the Showgirl line.
Mhm.
And then I went into the dancing nudes, and I would go back and give vacation time for people. But even just being a swing for the Showgirl,
For one line is a lot.
yeah.
Yeah.
And they didn't have as many dance combinations because you were wearing the big costumes. So
Mhm.
that's a lot to remember.
Yes. Yes.
How about you? Were you a bluebell?
I was a short bluebell,
And how tall are you?
5'9".
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
She's short.
Yeah, shorty. Yeah, and I never swung anything. It made me too nervous. Like you said, the big costumes, and I was oof. So I eventually just got to the point where I realized that I was making my grocery list on stage in my head, and I thought, oh boy, that's not right. And I also really, my background is heavily in musical theater, and so I really wanted to get back into that. I was itching to do more. So
Yeah.
but my time there was fabulous.
Yeah, and I get that because when I was in the shows, there was Hallelujah Hollywood, Jubilee, the Lido, Hello Hollywood, Hello. There were all these shows. So after 2 years,
You could switch.
you could switch.
Yeah.
And then I went to Japan with Nick Navarro. Who did you go to Japan with?
It was a show. I think Tony Coppola had something to do with it, but the choreographer was Julie Wren. She was out of Arizona at the time.
Okay. Was it a big group or a small group of you? Do you remember
I think there were 8 of us and a singer.
that was small. Yeah, because
Yeah,
I
it
was
was a
going to say
small
there were
show.
about 14 or
Yeah, it was a
15 of
small
us.
cabaret show.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was in Nagoya.
Oh, I was in Tokyo, Akasaka. Yeah. Did any of you, no, you didn't do any traveling with any of the shows, or have you?
For me, Taiwan and then cruise ships.
Okay. How did you like the cruise ships?
It was fun. I was very young, so I was okay with the living situation, very small cabin sharing. But after about 2 years, I was definitely ready to be on land and have a little more freedom.
So you did 2 years straight.
Yeah,
Cruise ships.
it was 3 contracts over 2 years, so they're broken up a little bit.
Wow. So tell me a little bit about the differences now between, because again, I mean, my hat's off to you. I have such respect that I say you straddle 2 different worlds. So tell me a little bit now, like, of the differences between being in Follies Bergère or Jubilee, and then being out there gigging and picking up the smaller shows. I mean, because were you guys in Vegas this show?
I did.
You were in Vegas this show.
Yeah.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about that. Whoever wants to just jump in there.
When
Elyse.
Jubilee closed, I was frankly a little devastated because I was in it to win it. I was like, this is my dream. I feel like just the queen of the world on the stage and everything. So when it closed, I had a little bit of an identity crisis, but I turned it around and I sent out my info, my portfolio to every agency, and slowly built my reputation.
So was it modeling agencies?
Modeling. I would do conventions. I
Conventions.
would do anything Showgirl. I started working in some of the big nightclubs as what they were calling showgirls. Their version of a showgirl is different to a go-go. We had choreography and we had extravagant costumes, but we were dancing.
Oh, so you were still dancing.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So, and then after freelancing shortly, I joined Tournament of Kings and Zombie Burlesque,
Okay.
which is very different to being
You're
up
your
on
Hermes in Tournament of Kings.
both of
man.
those
Yeah.
shows are very different from each other, and
Yeah.
both of those shows are very different from Jubilee. But I did find I loved being a zombie.
Really?
It's so fun to be a fantastic, over the top, crazy
Zombie, yeah.
little zombie lady. My track was
Wow.
called the 50-Foot Woman because they had very different characters. They had a very tiny dancer who was a pole dancer, and then a medium size who did ballet on point, and then I was the 50-foot showgirl.
So you were on stilts?
No, just tall.
Oh.
They made the
Was that
set pieces small.
At the Strat? At the Stratosphere?
Planet Hollywood.
Oh, Planet Hollywood. That's not there anymore, right?
Still
Oh, it is?
It's still going.
How come you're not there still?
I did my time. Yeah. After that I started doing Vegas the Show and Zombie at the same time because they're run by the same company, so you could do Vegas the Show and run down the whole way and do Zombie after.
So David Sachs.
David Sachs.
I didn't realize he did the zombie as
Yes.
well.
Yeah, he has a lot of little shows going all at the same
Okay.
time. So I don't do any shows at the moment full time. Babyface has a residency here, the singer. So when he's here, I dance in his show.
And I think Bex is in that show
Bex
too,
does
right?
it as
Mhm.
well, yes.
Nice.
Yeah, with Bex with her company, City Cats. And then, yeah, I feel like I'm talking about my whole life here.
No, that's perfect. That's what I wanted to hear your whole life.
I guess to your point
Yeah.
earlier, like what it's like to be a showgirl in this world. I work for the Golden Knights, and they have a showgirl line.
Okay.
And you are doing a parade before the games, and you're mingling with the people of all ages. The children love the showgirls. They think it's so special.
Nice.
We go down by the ice while the hockey players are warming up, and we're supposed to distract them. So we have choreography that we do up against the glass to try and like distract the other team
Oh,
while they're
I love
warming
it. I didn't
up,
know
blowing
that.
kisses. It's very fun.
That's so Las Vegas. Right?
So
Okay.
Yes.
So underhanded.
But hockey fans are a little intense, so they're also right there beside you, going crazy on the ice and trying to get in your way. So it's definitely a different experience.
Very fun.
We
Yeah.
make it work though. We have fun.
Good. Wow. How about you, Kady?
Uh,
How did you feel when Jubilee? No, you didn't close.
I didn't close
You didn't close
it.
Jubilee, so
I
you were already
was
out.
still really upset about it because I felt that it really was the final nail in the coffin
Yeah.
of the classic showgirl in Las Vegas, and that people were going to forget who she is. You know,
Yeah.
that was upsetting. But, you know, at that time I had already branched out and I'd been doing a lot of theater shows and musical theater, and I discovered burlesque, which had become my whole world and is so opposite showgirl world
yes, it
in
is.
such a fun way because, you know, in showgirl world, everything is covered and elegant and the tights and whatever. And burlesque is, we want to see the jiggle, and it's just anti. So that was fun to tap into that side of me that I did not know existed because it celebrates the female form in a completely different way, which I
Wow.
love.
And so you were in Cari's burlesque cue.
Yes,
both
I
of
was
you.
in
Both
burlesque
of
too.
them were in burlesque. too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That was super fun.
And how did you switch into burlesque and produce a burlesque show from being in the
I-
Follies Bergère?
I don't know
And a
how
classically trained ballerina.
who like introduced to burlesque to me, but I just loved it.
Mhm.
I mean, it's all about the costumes, and everybody has their character and their persona, and it celebrates the female form and the women, and it's just so fun.
Yeah.
It's so fun. So I just decided I wanted to produce a burlesque show.
And you were doing something a little different because you were bringing the classic showgirl a little
Yes.
bit into the burlesque
Yes,
world, which
I did.
not a lot of people were really doing.
I did bring the classic showgirl. A lot of my cast was showgirls and tall. So I did really tap into the showgirl and showgirl in burlesque.
Yeah.
So did you do the choreography?
I did not do the choreography. Kim St. Clair did the choreography.
Okay.
I do not choreograph.
And so she's a burlesque choreographer. Is she known for
No.
Oh.
She's just a choreographer here in town.
Okay.
Really good friend of mine, good choreographer, and she had some experience choreographing other smaller cabaret shows, so she knew how to choreograph group numbers with all 6 girls in them.
And I remember talking to you, and you survived COVID.
I
Burlesque
survived.
Q.
Well, Burlesque Q opened in the middle of COVID.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
And it was
I mean-
downtown, right?
Yeah, it was in town. Yeah,
Right downtown.
We were at Alexis Park, across from the Virgin.
It opened in the middle, but it had been, were you planning to open it?
I had conceived that show and mounted it probably 5 or 6 years prior to that.
Yeah.
And I'd done it once or twice and had photos and videos. And my goal was to sell it as a touring show and tour to casinos in California and Arizona and New Mexico. And I was just gathering steam. I had signed with a talent buyer out of LA that was marketing the show, and COVID hit. So there went that. So I did a couple of other things. Like they had that company out of LA had mentioned, like, let's do a live stream. Let's do a live stream and see what happens. That didn't pan out. There was too many moving parts to do a live stream burlesque show. It was crazy. And then just a weird flow of events. Somebody that had booked my Showgirls before and knew that I had this show had a friend who had built, this guy was a genius. He had built a COVID compliant theater in an unused ballroom at the Alexis Park.
Wow. Okay.
And at the time, he was kind of the only open and operating showroom, because he could have the 25-foot moat between the front of the stage and the audience, and he could place tables and chairs
Because it was such a big
6 feet
venue.
apart. So
Wow.
he built that COVID compliant theater and he wanted a female review. So
How many people did it hold?
it depended on what week it was and what the rules were.
Yeah.
that week. Like they would literally change sometimes from week to week, how many people we could have in that room and how far apart they could be and how many people at a table. It was wild to try to keep up with all the mandates on that.
But did you sell out pretty much
Oh,
every night?
yeah,
I
we
mean,
were the
because there was
only-
nothing else to do,
We were
right?
the only female review in town,
Open.
open
During
and
COVID.
running during COVID. Yep. So originally, Pete, who ended up being my producing partner, came to me with the idea, and he said, well, let's just do 5 or 6 shows, see what happens.
Yeah.
It ran for almost 3 years.
Oh, that's great. And
So-
how long were you in it?
2 years? Yeah. And Elyse was in it at the very beginning.
I started very early as a swing, so I would cover in case anything happened to anyone with COVID, if anyone got sick, or
Well,
if
you
there were any
came-
time off.
You were supposed to be in the very first cast,
That's right.
and you had too many obligations.
That's right. Early days.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy.
It was
to think
crazy.
back about COVID.
It was, oh my God, it was
It
crazy.
seems like
Yeah.
a lifetime ago.
It does.
It
but
does seem, yeah. And I first met Pete on December 8th. And he was like, well, I need to get this up and running now, like literally now.
Yeah, yeah.
We started rehearsals on the 10th and opened December 18th, or just I think December 18th. So we were in rehearsal for 8 days.
Oh my gosh.
It was crazy.
Wow.
We'd
What-
rehearse in the theater after the other shows were dark.
Wow. What a great story.
It was crazy, yeah.
Yeah.
It was super fun, but crazy.
Well, we need to take a quick commercial break, but don't go away because we've got more great Showgirl stories.
The Showgirl Legacy Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to preserving the historic significance of the iconic Showgirl as a performing artist. We achieve this through curriculum-based educational programs in partnership with the Las Vegas Academy of the Arts. The program includes a panel of entertainers and showgirls modeling authentic costumes for the visual arts students to paint. The students submit their artwork to the Showgirl Art Competition that becomes the annual Showgirl Art and Costume Exhibit. The foundation also represents guest speakers that give historical presentations about the Las Vegas Stage Show Spectaculars and their personal experiences. The speaker brings authentic show costumes for photo ops and tailors their presentations for conferences, conventions, luncheons, museums, and other venues. Recently added to the Foundation's repertoire is the talk show The Showgirl Connection with your host, Luann. She interviews former and current showgirls, dancers, entertainers, and all the people behind the scenes that make the magic happen. The Showgirl Connection wouldn't be possible without the partnership and support of WWDBTV and owner John Stiles. Learn more about us at showgirllegacy.org and castandcrewreunion.com. For questions, email us at info@showgirllegacy.org.
Okay, so we're back. And when we ended, we were talking about Burlesque Q and that transition that you made. And all three of you, from being that classic, iconic, beautiful, balletically trained ballerina wearing these big costumes to burlesque. I mean, not, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
but
it's-
it does make sense, and it's a great, because we're very aware of how we move in our bodies. And I did have Kady, like, her costume necessarily wasn't very showgirly, but she had big fans and a very traditional burlesque. But it does work because we're trained dancers and we're elegant and we're tall.
So you brought a whole different
Yeah.
twist to burlesque. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry. I wish that I would have seen it.
It was fabulous.
Yeah. I mean, I saw pictures, and then I like the idea of, big, tall, beautiful, balletically trained, muscular women too doing the burlesque.
It just brings a whole new vision to it. Yeah,
twist.
it's just a whole new.
Did you ever perform in your show?
No.
No?
Absolutely not.
So when did you retire from dancing?
I think the last gig I danced in was probably for Premier Showgirls before I took over the company. Yeah,
Okay.
and we actually wore these
Yes.
costumes, and I was
Oh.
and I was 42 or 43.
Now, do you have children?
No,
Okay.
no, I have.
So I mean, and that's not uncommon, 42 or 43. I think most of us retired from the big shows. And like I retired 5 months pregnant with my son, and I was 36.
Yeah.
And I think that was pretty standard.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because you're still tall and beautiful. I mean, you can still perform. You could have been in Stephen Sondheim's Follies with us. We had the
Yeah,
Stephen Sondheim's Follies last year,
yeah.
and there were 12 legendary showgirls, and they had us out there with the fans. And I'm 68, and I never thought that I would be on stage again. And it was really fun.
It's super fun now.
Yeah.
I did a Golden Rainbow a couple of years ago with the cast of many different Follies cast members from all over the years.
So can you just tell the audience a little bit about Golden Rainbow, and the history of Golden Rainbow?
So I don't think they're doing Golden Rainbow anymore, but it was, it's for the AIDS Foundation here in town, and they did Golden Rainbow every year, and it was all the shows in town would put together a number, and we do a benefit show to raise money for the AIDS Foundation.
And I think it started right around 80. I mean,
Yeah, it started very early. Yeah.
So I didn't realize that they aren't doing them anymore.
They didn't do one this year because I did the one last year with the cast from Follies.
Well, I think the whole strip is changing too.
But it's very different.
But did the Cirque folks get involved in Golden Rainbow?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
And it's very different. Even that last year that I did it, it's not necessarily shows put together a number. It's just different choreographers and different producers and different, it's very, very different.
Okay.
I mean, it was the same kind of thing. It wasn't the girls from Fantasy and the girls from Ex-Burlesque and the Chippendales. I mean, they all.
Yeah, in fact, I think the last one I saw about 3 or 4 years ago, most of them were singers.
Yeah.
There were a lot of singers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you familiar with the Golden Rainbow? Were you involved? Okay.
Jubilee used to do it every year.
Every year.
Yeah.
I probably did about 3 of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Follies used to do it every year. Jubilee used to do it every year. Yeah.
Okay, so tell me a little bit more, because you were talking about when you left Jubilee, and then you started working with Cari, and are you still working on the strip and performing? Or?
I still gig for Cari and a few other companies, and then I do burlesque shows because those pop up all over town.
So you're still doing the burlesque?
Absolutely, because that you can do into your 90s. You really can. It celebrates everything. And then currently I'm in a show called Mavericks at the Plaza.
I
And
haven't heard of Mavericks.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
a great show.
it's a really fun show. It is true variety, but they have variety acts like nothing else you've ever seen before. The woman that hosts it pulls together people that she's known for years that have these just off the wall, incredible acts. And so she came to me last summer and she said, I want a classic showgirl element in Mavericks. And I said, great. And she said, with your dog. And I said, what? Because my dog is not trained for anything, specific.
Yeah.
And that's what she wanted. She wanted a showgirl on that beautiful stage because that theater is gorgeous. And with her dog in a little headpiece just running around doing whatever she wants. And that's exactly what she does.
Well, I have a cat, Chuck. I think
You
he-
could have an cat.
There you go. I'd love to lend him out to you. I mean, he's so smart. And
Oh
he
my
can do
goodness.
tricks.
Oh, probably better than my dog.
Well, they can team up.
Yeah, great.
So your dog runs around and
She
then
was in a little headpiece.
really.
Mm-hmm.
It's adorable.
Look
Yeah.
at that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then how about you? Are you still performing?
Yes, so
Oh.
I'm completely freelance at
Oh,
this
that's
point.
right. Yeah, you
so
said
the
that.
Golden Nights is seasonal.
Okay.
We're off season right now, and then the Babyface show is just when he's in town. So that's every about 3 months we
Okay.
do a weekend. Other than that, it's completely freelance. So I get to hang out with these ladies whenever I possibly can.
She works a lot. She very rarely is she available for me.
I like to stay
Okay.
busy.
Because I was going to say you have another job.
No,
But so you can still make a living.
Oh,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And you can too. I mean, that's great to hear
Yeah.
because that was another thing that, we all kind of worried about with the gals coming up, how do you make a living as a dancer?
Right.
How
You can
Or-
do it.
you can still do
You can
it
do
right
it,
now in
yeah.
Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And you still are doing great shows that you love to do and you
Yeah.
feel like they're really professional and classy. And,
Absolutely.
A lot of my gigs for Premier Showgirls are very corporate.
okay.
But they'll want girls dancing to Viva Las Vegas or Burning Love
Yeah.
or a Frank Sinatra tune for a corporate event. But they do love that element of having the showgirls and the showgirls performing. So a lot of my gigs are meet and greet, but there's also a lot of gigs where we actually get to perform.
And so do you still work with a lot of Jubilee showgirls?
Yes.
Okay, so there's still a lot of Jubilee showgirls out there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've seen the same girls I've seen for 16 years.
Really?
Yeah, and it's interesting because, showgirls aren't moving to Vegas anymore. They have no reason to. So I keep looking at all these other still beautiful showgirls and thinking, when are we going to age out of this? Because there's no new
Yeah.
ones coming in.
Yeah.
Like, ugh, what happens?
Because I would say your age group now is probably 30s.
I'm about to be 40.
Okay.
Yeah.
You look fabulous.
Thank you.
Yeah.
She does.
Yeah. Yeah, because, the Showgirl Legacy Foundation, we do our presentations in the schools, and I bring in showgirls in authentic costumes for the visual arts students to sketch and
That's
draw.
right, yes.
And so I use Christina and
Mhm.
Brittany and Brooke
And
and
Sisha.
Sisha
Yeah.
Yes.
and
Alyssa.
Alyssa just came this
Mhm.
year,
Great.
and then and they're all still just absolutely
Gorgeous.
fabulous
Gorgeous.
and gorgeous
Yes.
and beautiful. And the kids, the students, just when the showgirl walks in those costumes, they're just in awe.
Yeah.
And then they take photo references and they sketch and draw. Just the
I've seen some of it.
Those are
Beautiful stuff.
absolutely
Yeah.
Amazing talent.
Mhm.
yes. And we have a show every year, and people can't believe it's freshmen and juniors
Oh, wow.
that are sketching and drawing those
It's
paintings.
incredible.
In fact, I'm just going to say something really quick. We have a new program. It's called Showgirl Sketchers,
Mhm.
and so the students, it's probably the first time that they've had where they're getting paid to do art. It's on a commission basis, and they just do 11 by 13 sketch from photos from the showgirls,
Mhm.
and we pay them
Wow.
$75.
Very cool.
Oh.
And they do beautiful sketches, and this is our second year, so that's something if anybody's interested in, and have some old photos of themselves in showgirl costumes. That's a really fun
really
program.
cool.
We have
That's
two
really cool.
we have
Yeah.
two students that are working on it this summer. All right, so you know what? I think I just noticed that Jim Marsh is in the studio. Jim Marsh. Hey, Jim. Hi, Jim. Hey, Jim.
Hi, ladies.
Nice to see you.
Good to be here.
Thanks for
Good.
stopping by.
It was our pleasure.
Yeah, have you met my showgirls?
Well, I'm Kady.
This is
Kady.
Kady.
Elyse.
Elyse,
And I'm Cari.
Cari,
Nice
good
to
to see
meet
you.
you.
Let's put you right in between the two showgirls.
Works for me.
Hey, Jim, can you tell us a little bit about, I know you have Jim Marsh Kia, and are you,
I have Jim Marsh Kia and Jim Marsh Chrysler Jeep on the automotive and several casino properties around the state also.
okay. So how is car business?
Car business has been very good. Yeah, we've been very blessed. Without a doubt.
Good.
So
Well, I know you've always been very supportive of the Showgirls. I remember you were at the closing of the Folies Bergère.
I was there the last day. Yes.
Yep, I remember seeing you there.
And
Cari
I
was,
was in the show.
Were you there, Cari?
I was in the show that night. Yep.
she was performing that night.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you've come to other reunions that we've had over the years.
I
And
have,
so,
as a matter of fact.
yes, you have. And you always look great with the Showgirls. So let's get Jim a hat. How about getting Jim a hat?
Jim, what happens if you don't drive here?
If you don't drive here, you can't save here. Yes.
There you go.
That's true. How many years have you been selling
I've
cars,
been
Jim?
here 53 years.
53
in Las Vegas.
years.
Yep, 53 years.
Wow.
This one?
That's a good one.
How's that?
So this hat is from this show, Hello Hollywood Hello from Reno.
Really?
And it's a men's hat. And then Cari's got her hat, and inside her hat,
It says Cari.
Aw.
so
You know, I
Cari,
got a hat on display at the dealership, and I didn't realize, but every hat in every show was different. This, I think you said, was from Enter the Night. if I
yes, it
remember
was.
right.
Enter the Night.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very cool.
that's a great hat.
Yeah, I've got it on display in the showroom itself. So
That's right. I forgot
yeah,
about
remember
that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember that. I bought a car there.
What kind of car did you buy?
I bought a Jeep Grand Cherokee. She was gold. I loved her.
Oh, I
Nice.
remember her.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did it have Jim Marsh Kia on the
It
back
did.
of it?
I think it said Jim Marsh Jeep.
Oh, Jim Marsh Jeep, because
Yes,
it was a
uh,
Jeep. That makes
Yeah.
sense. Well, let's put on our hats too, Cari. And then maybe
Oh,
we'll.
this will bring back memories.
Oh, yeah.
Probably
Here we
wore
go.
this for New Year's.
You wore that for New Year's?
Probably these were out of the show when I was in the show, so we would wear these for special events and New Year's Eve and
Nice.
stuff.
You guys had small heads back then. I can
This
barely
one's small.
get this
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
All right, so let's do a group shot. Here we go.
Uh-oh.
Okay, thanks. Goodbye. Thank you for coming to our episode of the Showgirl Connection. We'll see you again soon.
Katie,
Yes.
are those real pheasant feathers?
I believe they are. Yes.
You know, the reason I ask, I grew up in Nebraska, and every year there was a competition as to who could get the longest pheasant feathers. And I entered every year. I never won it. I'd get about a 30-inch feather, and somebody would come back with 36 inches. But
Oh,
brings
my.
back memories of my youth there.
I bet.
Right there.
How long can pheasant feathers get?
Almost 3 feet. That's, yeah, almost 3 feet.
Wow.
Yeah.
I forgot you were from
Yeah,
Nebraska.
exactly. But pheasant season is a big thing back in the fall there.
So do you recognize any of these other feathers?
Yeah.
no, I don't. But
I think, are there some turkey feathers? The hat that you
Oh,
wore
yeah.
is dyed
That's
turkey
turkey.
feathers.
it really could
Yeah.
be.
Yeah, dyed
These are
turkey feathers.
probably ostrich.
Those
Yeah.
are ostrich.
Yeah.
Ostrich.
These are
feathers.
ostrich feathers.
I like those because they don't shed.
And I didn't realize that every show had a separate head sets for the dancers. And some had taller ones and some smaller as the dancer, depending which they were. Is that
Mhm,
right?
yeah.
So-
Oh, and the showgirls were the
The
ones that
showgirls,
wore
yeah.
the really
Big.
big headpieces. And then, did you dance in these, Cari?
Mhm.
Yeah, so these were feathers that you could
Yeah.
manage and still dance in.
Uh-huh.
Because
Yeah.
we would do a little show for New Year's Eve and we dance in those.
How about this hat over here? Could you dance in that?
You guys
Yes.
dance
Yeah.
in these, yeah.
I think like
I'm kind of a ruthless boss, and I make them dance in whatever. The
you
client
aren't
wants.
that bad. Nothing will be worse than them putting the pink and orange headpiece and Jubilee on me and saying, "Yeah, you're going to do a double turn in this." Sorry?
No, yeah.
Sorry? What? And you cannot spot. And you have a big backpack on. That was jarring to me.
Oh, if you think about the things we did back in the day,
Oh.
well, you saw those big shows, Jim, where
Oh,
we
yeah,
were
I
walking.
remember when Sahara, when I was a teenager, they came out with their for Showgirls and so forth. And that was my first recollection of the Showgirls, but they had and it was on their mailing list. I got mailing every month of the Showgirls. I forget what the name was, but they were
The show at the
gorgeous.
Sahara.
There's several different ones. I
Yeah.
can't
Yeah,
remember.
that's before the days of the huge hotels there, but at
Okay.
that time, Sahara was the hotel.
Interesting.
It really was.
Yeah. Well, and do you go back to even when they had the headliners, and then they had the lineup of showgirls behind the headliners?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love those old shows. You know,
Yeah.
much more than I do today. I have to tell you that.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing like the
Yeah.
big stage show spectaculars.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They were great. I wish someday they'd bring them back. I don't know if that'll ever happen, but it'd be nice if they
It
did.
would be nice.
Well, did you see Bob Mackey on Facebook? Well, you're not on Facebook, but Bob Mackey on Facebook said he was thinking of bringing back
I
the show.
saw that.
Yeah.
That'd be
Yeah.
amazing.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, Bob Mackey did all those Jubilee finale costumes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We
Any
need to
other,
get him on the show and make him commit to that on
There
camera.
you go.
Yeah.
what?
To bring
Do a
back the
show.
show.
Yes. All right. That's the next person that we're going to bring on. It's
Yeah.
Bob Mackey.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Jim, for stopping
Hey,
by.
it's my
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Yeah.
Good to see you girls.
Yeah.
Nice to see
It's
you.
my pleasure.
Yeah. Well, we'll do it again soon.
I hope so.
Okay. Because you're
Good.
just right down the street. You're 7 minutes from us.
Real close.
All right.
All right.
Good deal.
By the way, thank you. Thank you, girls.
Of course.
Because if you don't drive here, you can't appear here. Thank you for that.
Thanks, John.
We have a tradition here, and if you would all please follow me.
Okay.
Okay.
You too, Mr. Marsh, you're the first one.
All right.
You got to accent, trade the positive and eliminate the negative and latch on to the affirmative, but don't mess with Mr. In Between. You got to.